Andre Hill, your host, and we have our co-host, uh, Chairman Terrence Lake in Detroit, Michigan. How you doing, Chairman?
Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing great, thank you. Not a beautiful day, but we had spring weather yesterday, boy, in the 60s. Man, oh man, that's beautiful. But right now, I'd say it's probably in the 40s, but that's all right. Yesterday made up for a lot of the cold days that we had.
Wow, yeah, the 40s would be real chilly here in Florida.
It's chilly here in Detroit, but I'll accept the 40s any day. Just stay away from the 30s.
Hey, all right. Also, we have our co-host and engineer Andre Hill Jr. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Peace and love, family. Peace and love.
All right. So we're going to get right into it. We have two interesting topics that we're going to do a cross discussion from generation to generation on our different experiences and interpretations. But anyway, I posted on Friday. Good evening, family. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Straight Talk Network. You can get us on YouTube at the highlights. Also, you may want to go back and tap that highlight because Facebook removed the week before last show, and I'll get you the. Can you get the title on that show? We'll get you that, but before the end of this show, we'll get you the title on it because it was a critical show on building your spiritual self-esteem, understanding, the dynamics of why we've been divided on race. And so especially for melanated people, it'll help you understand who you are. For Caucasian people, it'll understand why you're in the predicament that you're in and how you can get out of it. So, but anyway, as we go on, also, we're broadcasting from our Facebook page live of Andre Hill Sr. So anytime you want to go back and watch some of those shows, do that. So Aboriginal Americans are being fired off their corporate American jobs. What options do they have left? Also, what does revelation mean to the ETs? Tune in and be enlightened. Also, this topic that we're discussing today, the section about the various councils of over what 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, the beginning of the Bible, huh? Or
Well,
the New
well,
Testament.
the first century. My son covered the various councils on how the Christianity religion was reconstructed for a particular agenda. So I'm going to toss the ball to him today on those discussions of those various councils and in dealing with the revelations. First off, Americans, Aboriginal Americans. Let's talk about the term Aboriginal. I remember, I'm running an experiment on social media, and I remember a young lady looked up that I was working with the Aboriginals, and she thought I meant the Aboriginals of Australia. So I want to get some clarity. Aboriginal means from the beginning. And one of the things that these Luciferian demons did was erase the identity of the original humans and replace it with a Caucasian culture. Even in the Eight Men, I remember with the movies we used to watch, the Eight Men would be Caucasians. And that's a complete contradiction to the reality that the original humans had to have melanin in their skin in order for them to exist on the surface. We're going to hammer that into your mind over and over again until you can reverse the brainwashing that you received over the last 80, 90, maybe 100 years for those that are still here in that time frame, and replace it with the truth. And that's our agenda here. So Aboriginal meaning on every continent on this planet, there were Genesis projects, or what you call Garden of Edens, where the original humans were developed with melanin in their skin. And eventually all of those Garden of Edens have merged to where we are right now. And now we are crossbreeding and we have evolved into a species to be recognized by the High Command or Galactic Council. Oh, I'm getting some serious feedback. Yeah, and so apart the feedback, we noticed our shows are getting very popular now. So we're getting all kinds of things happening with the phones and the computers. So bear with us. All right, so the Aboriginals. So when we refer to Aboriginals, what we're doing is reconstructing in your mind the true history of life here on planet Earth. So the Aboriginals were all over the planet, not just Australia. So they remind you a lot of the DNA sequences. I think I got that right. Of transferring or from one humanoid to a more advanced humanoid, meaning less hair, less protruding features, and we become more in alignment with a civilized species that can talk, walk, think, critical thinking, and all that stuff, and not just relying on impulse. So the Aboriginals, there are Aboriginals here in America. The truth about that has been suppressed and replaced with the so-called $5 Indians or Mongoloid Native Americans. That image replaced the Aboriginals, which were dark-skinned melanated people that were here originally in the Americas. So if you have dark-skinned Aboriginals, you didn't necessarily come over here on the boats from Africa. Your ancestors were already here. They had buildings, they had civilizations, they were advanced. They built the White House and a lot of other, even right here in Tampa, the University of Tampa, you can see obviously that it was built by Moors. Caucasian people didn't build this. And so we're just helping to restore your memory. We're helping the Caucasian people understand who they are, why they were created, and how they can avoid the generational curses associated with their Caucasian ancestry. All right, so going into the part of Aboriginal Americans being fired off their job. Now, I did a little research on that, and as soon as Trump was elected, some of these corporations started dismantling their DEI program immediately. So, of course, we're finding out that a lot of Caucasian women benefited from that more so than Aboriginals. And it's basically the research I'm coming up with, only 4% of Aboriginal people are being affected. But more importantly, our Aboriginal people, Black people of the Americas, have to come to a realization that even though it's affecting more Caucasian women than Aboriginal people, it's still having an effect on our economic system. We're already under stress economically because a lot of our families are being supported by those one or two members in corporate America. So you got brothers and sisters and grandbabies and so on and so on. And they rely on that small percentage or percentile of Aboriginal Black American people who have been benefiting from corporate America. So what is happening that these companies jumping in, and you can go online and do your own research. I think one of the companies, even Victoria's Secret, I was walking through the mall last night and I saw Victoria's Secret. So I mentioned to a friend of mine, I said, well, the secret, what the so-called secret of Victoria is, that Victoria was a man. So, so you start, you can look at all of the companies that are dismantling the DEI program with the intent of initially hurting Aboriginal people. And a lot of the Caucasians voted for Trump because anything they could do to hurt or dismantle or disrupt the lives of Aboriginals is a relief to, in most cases, to the Caucasian culture. But then it backfired, and a lot of the Caucasian women that voted Trump in office are being affected by the DEI program. So the wording and of the various that outlines policies regarding DEI. Now they're going to have to go in and say and pinpoint. Well, we don't mean all of the Caucasian women, and so so the madness continues. So let me throw this thing around. Hey, Chairman, have you heard about any melanated people losing their jobs through this DEI reorganization structure?
Not really, because I'm not in tune with the general populace like I used to be, other than what I see on the internet and what I hear from you guys. My contact has sort of been limited. It hasn't affected anyone in my family, even though I do have relatives that are in nice positions and a variety of positions, but I haven't heard, anyone being affected, losing their job because of Donald Trump's, antics.
Okay. All right. Hey, I got to go to the young generation. Hey, man, are you hearing anything in terms of people that are on jobs, or are they being stressed out that they got to perform more better, or they're going to be easily cut, or what are you hearing in your arena?
No, not anybody personally that I know was affected by them having a job in a particular position to where they'd be affected by current DEI restructuring or whatever. But I am working on a project with some people in my environmental network, and so I'm not going to name too many names, but just kind of give you guys some context. There was a granting source that offered one of my partners some grant funds. And we have been working on this project since last year. And it's basically an informational project teaching the community about essentially, just to sum it up, about environmental racism in general. I know that's kind of hard to fathom, but matter of fact, most racism was always environmental. When you think about it, right? When you think about redlining, that's an environmental racism. Usually, they literally use the environment to be racist, right? So we think about all of the Black cities or Aboriginal cities that were burned. That's environmental racism. Flooded. That's environmental racism. That's exactly what that is. And what the practices look like today is, or in current times, are the herding of Black people, or the displacement of Aboriginals into less suitable lands based on their current environmental infrastructure and/or the land being contaminated and/or polluted by industrial operations. So, like, say for instance, most Black communities, we either very close to the interstate and/or to some type of industrial operation. That's environmental racism. That's what that is. So anyway, with that being said, we were working on a project, educating the populace about this. And the granting source, I'll give them kudos. Mostly Caucasians came to us and said, "Hey, our up ahead said we can't name the project environmental justice because that goes against the new DEI reconstruction. We can't use any verbiage that says there's anything close to equity, justice, anything like that." anything that would hint at there's a disproportionate situation of equity with anybody who isn't, let's say, I guess, Caucasian male, right? Anybody who's not Caucasian male who would technically benefit from DEI. You can't use any verbiage that is hinting towards that, because if we do, they're going to cut the funding, right? So as far as people losing their jobs, not that in particular, but have I seen a real life situation regarding these new things they trying to do with DEI? Yeah, I've seen it personally.
Okay, so I heard specifically, I think I mentioned this last week, one specific case of a young lady being offered a severance package for like 2 months. And, she was going to go on vacation, with monies, and but she's not sure that when she comes back from vacation, if she'll be able to find a job, because the corporations are no longer, there's no incentive to hire, diverse cultures. And so, the excuse that you're only hiring for performance. Well, in the Aboriginal Black American communities, from the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, we were always taught that we had to be twice as good, to make it in corporate America. So we always understood that, and we always outperformed, especially when there were incentives, in our production. So, excuse me. So that's not really, that's not gonna have a real effect on us. The bottom line is, the person that's hiring, if they have an agenda, and we're not hiring no more Black folks, then it doesn't matter, whether you high profile, high performance or not. So, but the jury's still out on. I've been studying a lot of moves by the Trump administration, and it seems like to me, a lot of these policies is like a double-edged sword. There are some things that I agree with, and it was well tailored to neutralize individuals like myself and a few other individuals from my generation. That, well, some of these things are good, that the Trumpster, some of these policies, but the fast start of this administration, this seems to be exposing all of the weaknesses or opposes of this 2025 plan, or this agenda to change the paradigm in the so-called United States government. And so, and what I'm saying by that is that if you are attacking another army, and you want to test the mettle of them, then you attack them head on. And the cases like with these judges that are, resisting a lot of the mandates. So if you attack them right now and get them exposed, then you go back and regroup and say, now we know who they are. So we're going to start targeting these individuals that's going to resist against our policies. And then we will threaten them with death. We're going to start investigating their families, start to get some dirt on them. So if these people are trying to do right by the American people, once they expose themselves, and this is why this program is being initiated in such haste, as I would say. and so these judges are now being exposed, and they're starting to get this worried look on their face, because of course somebody in the family or some weaknesses going to pop up, and they're going to use those against those particular judges. So we got to. So this is early on in the game. We have to also take into consideration that the Trumpster, studied Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf book to the letter, and it seems like, and I got to go back and do some more research on the early stages of when Hitler got in position. How did he deal with the various governments, the judges, and the Congress, and how did he expose them? How did he eliminate it to get it to the point where he got the authority to exterminate 6 million Jews? Now, take in mind, nobody never talks about Leopold. I'm just using the history of Hitler, and that exterminated close to 15 to 16 million in Africa. So Hitler's crimes were vast, but Leopold was an extreme demon. So I always want to bring that note up when we're talking. So, hey, Chairman, what do you think about Trump's tactics? It's everything, when you got good against evil, one country against another, it's all about war tactics. What do you think about what's going to happen with those judges that's opposing his policies?
Well, his nature. Anyone that opposes him, he's going to try to bring them down. He's been doing that all his life. Even in his show that he had, The Apprentice, he loves attacking people. He likes to put fear in you. He wants to be the boss. You know, he talked about Luzinski over there in Ukraine when he was a comedian. Trump is worse than a comedian. He has no value to his, you know, gestures or comments. He's just, you're fired. How can he represent a country like the United States when he has no background of motivating a society and doing righteous things to uplift the people, to take us in a positive direction? He's only been in a negative position, even in that insurrection at at the Capitol. All negativity. Everything that he does associates with negativity, and I just can't believe it. I can understand why they said that they stole the election. That he did it. Like this time we got it right. And it's a shame that we have to just sit here and sort of accept it, even though we're still investigating underground and on the table too of the things that went on during the election with these ballots and stuff being thrown away and discarded, and polls being moved and not allowing the people to vote. That went on very strong. If the people only knew what they were doing, there'd be a revolution right now. But somehow it's just really not getting to the people, except to us junkies that are on the news all the time trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But it's coming out more and more. I don't want to get off the subject, but with this disclosure situation, he don't want to see no disclosure. He said when he came in office he was going to let us know. He ain't said not one itty bitty word about disclosure, because he didn't found out the real deal that it would hurt him. So that's why he's not going to talk about something that's going to hurt him. There's too much knowledge involved. There's too much uplifting mobility with the society as a whole. He don't want that. He wants to be king. You know that. But that's only
But
in his dreams.
well, I'm glad you brought that topic up about the disclosure and the Trumpster. I had a revelation on, the dominant positions in government were always held by Caucasian men. And so the disclosure of a low frequency extraterrestrial, giving them the technology to rule over the rest of the planet, they can't have that, because that's like letting the cat out of the bag. The illusion as to why you got one small group running all of the most prominent systems of government, religion, banking, by these little small group of people. So they have an allegiance to these low frequency extraterrestrials who portray themselves as demons, devils, any metaphor to influence this small group of people to stay in power. So by exposing the truth that there are civilizations out in the universe, and it has been for billions of years.
Yes.
You have to be, seriously brain dead to think that we're the only humans, on the planet in the universe, and you got to be seriously brain dead to think we're the most advanced beings in the universe. So here's the deal. This is why the United States government, as long as it's being controlled by this small group of people or Caucasian men, they're never going to expose where they get their power from. Because right now the illusion is they're getting the power because they're superior to all the other humans on the planet. And that's a big lie and a big joke. So they're not going to expose their source. They showed you in The Wizard of Oz. They pulled the curtain back and saw there was a little man behind there working the controls. That's about the best you're gonna get. All right, so let's talk military. Okay, so Chairman, where we left off was with military tactics of the Trumpsters, and I always want to get my son's generation viewpoint because this show is designed for people like me and the chairman to give advice to the younger generations to help them work through the mass of brainwashing, lies, and corruptions all across the board. The governments, the educational system, the religions, and the banking system, all of it are lies. So I always want to get their opinion from my son because we get a better point of view. So, hey, man, do you see this tactic? What the Trumpster early on exposing these judges? How you see that as a military tactic, or what do your generation think about
that? I didn't know he was exposing judges. I didn't know that piece of news. But to answer your question straightforward, the whole thing is a military psych ops operation. Well, that's a
maneuver.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Chairman. The whole thing is a military maneuver. Is seemingly stringless as Trump is as a puppet. He's a puppet as well, and yeah, most of his moves are military maneuvers. Because I saw something in contrast to what you were saying. Allegedly, there are some judges who were pushing back on him, so that he can't attack them essentially for exposing whatever he's doing, right? So my generation in general, just like every generation, you got a large percent of people who they're not seeing this from the top down. They're just looking at it from the top up, and so they sight on this thing is limited. But you got some people in my generation who are looking at it like we're gonna ride the wave. We're gonna see what what happens here, and let the chips fall where they may, and try to survive the fallout, basically. In other words, so a good portion of my generation don't have a very good plan in place to answer your question. Further answering your question, no, they don't. The best strategy they have is trying to hoard resources, money, in the event of whatever. For the most part, that's my generation's answer. So if you got something to tell them, I suggest you give them some kind of wisdom on that.
So that's the whole purpose of this show. I get up some Saturdays, I don't feel like doing it, but I have to do it, because this is the example that the elders from our generation needs to portray. Because because just like you about as conscious as they come from your generation, but still you guys need the elders to come in and interpret things based on our 80, 60, 70 years of experience, what we've already seen, over and over again, history repeating itself because of this ignorance. And this is why we have formed a nation, the United Aboriginal American Republic, and we are establishing dual citizenship. You are Aboriginals. You were reclassified as Negroes as a military tactic to erase your memory and your heritage. So we're not taking up war against the United States of corporate America. What we're doing is returning to our status as Aboriginals. We were the original people on this land until so many years ago, an invasion happened and our ancestors were murdered, raped, imprisoned, enslaved, and reclassified as Negroes. It is a horrible thing. And so there's an old spiritual saying, everything in darkness shall soon come to light. So we're bringing this to light, and we're not the only ones. You can go on YouTube. A lot of Aboriginal people are waking up, and they are seeking out information. Hell, as a matter of fact, I get a lot of information from a lot of enlightened people. But I know the chairman. Okay, so everybody on this panel are telepathic, and we have learned how to tune into the frequencies of the Most High that's giving us instructions and direction. And so all we're doing is taking our 70, 80-year-old database and sharing it with the younger generation so you can avoid destruction. That's the whole purpose of this show. That's why I get up every Saturday, do a little research, and give you a view of what's being downloaded into my consciousness and the chairman's consciousness, and also to you, my son, who is a new blood, but you understand how to tune in and read the different frequencies. And so that's the whole purpose of the show. So we're getting to the point of you establishing dual citizenship and acquiring full autonomy, separation from the influences of these different, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. It's been a good cop, bad cop game, and we've been losing. We're not gaining. That's the reality of the situation. So what do you do? What is the option? You go to these corporations now and you say, hey, I'm a Black person, and we pay taxes, and there should be equal opportunity, and not just hiring us because of the color of our skin. Well, the DEI program has essentially destroyed that. They don't feel obligated that you are a taxpayer or your parents were taxpayers and contributed to the Social Security since the beginning of time. They don't care about that. All they want to do is maintain this illusion of white supremacy because it levels the playing field. They don't feel that they can compete on a level playing field, so they have to lie, cheat, and steal, and kill, and murder, and rape. And so that's what this show is all about. We are encouraging you. We're upgrading the directive on our website. There's a little more on it now. Go to it, uaaranation.org. That's uaaranation.org. And go in and put information in the comments section that you're interested in working with us. You're not going to have the job opportunities. So depending on corporate America. So since you are the original people and there were civilizations here before the Caucasians came out of the caves, you can create and produce for yourself. You don't have to sit back and say, oh, woe is me, what I'm going to do. The white man ain't going to hire me anymore. What I'm going to do? Okay, so quit tripping and come join the nation. We need people in different categories. And now let me explain something to you. We're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. But we need more people in developing a government, every section of government, food, clothing, housing, education, all of these things. We need people in those categories to develop these programs. We need archaeologists to study and research the Aboriginals of the Americas, what we contributed, and why was all that information erased from the history books? Why only the Mongoloid, native so-called Mongoloid and $5 Indians were given the resources that was really due to the Black Aboriginals? Why? We need archaeologists. We need people to do that research. I had a conversation with a sister, and in my age group, she just, blank told me, you know what, Mr. Hill, I'm just tired. I just don't have any more fight in me. Well, you better fight until that last round, because if you give up, you will be coming back to this dumb crap all over again. So whatever energy you have, you need to pull. You can't leave anything on the table, because when you die, you have one option. You're coming back to the same crap that you left. The bed that you made is the bed that you lie in. So we're just encouraging our people to get involved. We have. I'm looking for someone that can come up and start designing, me personally, Aboriginal dress that we used to wear, back thousands of years ago. Because, I got a family reunion coming up. They want to wear cowboy clothes, which was Black people. I admit it. But I want to wear my Aboriginal dress, So we need designers. We need clothing people to get involved, because you see where this truster is going. No matter how slick it is and how cool it may seem, he's giving benefits to wealthy people, because that's who supported him to help him win this or get into the White House, really. So he's beholden to them. That a lot of you Black folks, aren't billionaires. They ain't gonna be working for you, So get involved with us, and we will continue to do these shows as long as we can. And our nation is filing petitions all over, and we're getting in position to exchange resources with other melanated countries that have awakened to the fact that our Caucasian brothers have some serious generational curses, and we're going to help fix those curses. Even after all they've done to us, we're still in the state of mind, we got to help them out. You know why we're going to help them out? Because a lot of them were Aboriginal people in the previous life, and they lost their privilege. And that's the beginning of how we're going to help them out. So that's what we're doing. Chairman, you got any other comments on this topic? I was trying to get to whether there are other options, and the other options is to join the UAAR, bring your resources. If you're getting severance packages, don't take that money to go traveling and letting your hair down and all that. You better take that money and get ready to survive. You need to get ready to start building some houses somewhere out off the grid with what the truster and his billionaire friends are doing. Yeah. So, that's basically where we're at.
Well, you know what they say, lack of knowledge, that's how we perish. But what we've got to gain the knowledge and recognize that having a dual citizenship, you're not giving something up, getting one to get another, you're retaining both. And then you've got choices, because some might benefit you more so than others. When I lived in Canada for 28 years, I worked over there for 20 years, I met many foreigners that had dual citizenship, but for some reason they didn't want to give it to Americans. There was a one window of opportunity that I had, but it happened so quick, it was over within that year. And I missed out on getting that dual citizenship. But I was a landed immigrant over there, so I had the right to live there and work. And my children were actually dual because they had a parent born in one country and a other parent born in another country. So it's not that you're giving something up, you're gaining something. And so for you to have choices, it's to your advantage. I want all the choices that I can get. You know, the more the merrier, because the least choices that you have, you know, that's a very unpredictable situation, you know, like being thrown off board on a ship, you know, and ain't no life raft out there to grab. You know, if you're not a good swimmer, you give it up. But if you got something to grab a hold to, you know, you might be able to get back to shore and continue this existence, you know. But that's my input on that. You know, people open your mind, you know.
Well, to our loyal listeners, of course, like and subscribe to our YouTube. Our Facebook page has been closed, which is an honor to let us know that we are doing a good job. We're bringing the truth when they start shutting your pages down. So go to our YouTube page. Just click on the YouTube at Dre 5285 and all of that other gibberish that they have written on there. And go to that YouTube page and subscribe. Watch the shows from there, because Facebook, they're getting tricky. They start to put pressure on the owner. Well, he's not really the owner, but the director of this social media to suppress any groups that are teaching the truth. And we're proud that that we're having these issues, because that's a representation that we're not selling out, and we're going to continue to bring you a true interpretation of what we're receiving from the Most High, to share it with the generations behind us, and encouraging our generation. You can't leave anything on the table. You can't leave anything on the field. You got to. I don't care how tired you are, how wore out you are, join a collective of like-minded people, and let's manifest and demonstrate for our children and the generations behind us. That's what this whole Trumpster, the Trumpster game is, and we're going to get in that next topic, what the ETs think about Revelation. The Trumpster's game is required, because we are an experiment, and an experiment that has matured to a point where we supposed to be tested, with our sincerity of unconditional love and respect for each other. That's what the whole test is all about. All humans are created equal. Well, if you're short, you're needed. You can get in places a tall man can't get in. Or if you're tall, you need it because you can reach things that a shorter man couldn't reach. We all have something to contribute to the whole. But this Caucasian capitalistic system is designed to compete, cutthroat, stab in the back by any means necessary, and to maintain the illusion of ignorance that we the only species in the universe, and because they got this technology to control us with lies, cheating, stealing, the P. Diddy mode, all of those things. All of that is a precipitation from this Luciferian agenda. But let's go ahead and get into the next topic. Now, the next topic deals with also, what does Revelation means to the ETs? All right. So I did some research. I remember reading Revelations when I was a child. And so I looked at it and said the book of Revelation is attributed to Apostle John, who wrote it while in exile and on the island of Patmos. Patmos, sorry about that, likely around the end of the 1st century AD. The book's focus, triumph over evil and the reestablishment of balance. That's not what the Google did. I wrote that. So it is a signal that from the extraterrestrials that this is a process that every civilization in the universe has to go through at some point. When you reach this point, you know, it's a test to see if you're sincere. And if you're not sincere, if you're still about what's mine, how I'm gonna get mine, you get yours. Those are the universe, the prime directive, the Galactic Council. They're not going to allow that ignorance to go out in space and corrupt the rest of the universe. They want to build a universe based on balance. That means you're civilized. That means you're conscious. That means you respect all forms of life and understand the ideologies of balance. This planet is extremely out of balance because the Luciferian effect of the low frequency aliens was allowed to test us, extract resources in exchange for access to our bodies and all kinds of crazy things. And only a few people can enjoy the prosperity as long as they continue to worship these low frequency extraterrestrials that comes in the form of gods. You know, and like right now, the Trumpster want to be a god. You know, he wants people to worship him and refer to him as King Trump. I promise you, and I think I have good ties with the ETs. It's not going to be allowed.
That's for sure.
I promise you that.
We'll see
Cameron,
soon.
Before we let Junior talk, because he's got some heavy stuff about the various councils. What are your thoughts on Revelations and as it pertains to what are the ETs saying?
Well, my vibes that I'm picking up is the truth. You know, it's going to be exposed. It's been so many lies. That's why we're so confused. You know, you can't build a kingdom on lies. You know, there's too many weak spots. So the ETs are going to just reveal the truth. You know, that's why this disclosure that's supposed to be happening very soon, some dating that it's going to be the 21st of March, you know, but they're ready to just display, to show us the way, you know. And I feel strong in my spirit that it's going to happen soon. If it happened on the 21st, more power to us, you know. But other than that, as long as it happened, but it's going to happen soon because there's too many people from various parts of this planet talking about the same thing. It's going to be a big change, and it's going to be a positive change because I also heard that the ETs are just tired of these babies getting killed. That's what's destroying them the most. You know, they just can't fathom why are we doing this to our own, you know. I'll land that plane.
All right, so hey, son, there were many councils that were gathered in Europe to create this fake Christianity and force every nation on the planet into this new concept or remade concept of Christianity. How did all that come about? And I know you're speaking from the book of Lucifer's Revenge. Go ahead.
How did all that come about? That's a lot of stuff that happened, man. But you mentioned, I'll start somewhere. You mentioned the island of Patmos and the Apostle John earlier, and not to ruin the fun, but you know, and this is no shade to our Christian people, but John in his exile to the island of Patmos never happened. Be straightforward, it never happened. There was no John. There was no apostles. The island of Patmos is there, but it was never any John that was exiled there. The entire Christian Bible, especially the translated one by King James and any other version. Early Christian writers wrote that entire thing. So let me back up for a second. You know, it is somewhat hard to fathom that a group of men, let's say, what is that? That's Eastern Europe, kind of Middle Europe, and Khazarian. In other words, Northern Middle Eastern writers wrote the entirety of every story in the Bible. But I know it's hard to fathom that they could do that, but we have to just think about this. You know, people back then were eating very natural foods, didn't have any digital technology. The primary muscle that they exercised for entertainment was their imagination. The primary muscle they exercised all the time. When you really get to looking into ancient mythology, you can see how well our ancestors or the people who preceded us, how good they were at writing and making up stories. They were very good at it. They were very good at it. In fact, this segues into what you're asking me that. So how did all of this come about? Before there was a Council of Nicaea, before you had the concept of creating divine beings for a mythology, because mythology is what turned into religions, right? We had mythologies at first, what we call mythologies. Before they turned into religion, in particular, before polytheistic mythologies turned into monotheistic religions, one of the biggest and most popular situations that happened was the Greek and Roman civilizations sending some of their most studious scholars down into Africa to learn how to refine, for one, the very refined process and art of coming up with the mythology. So for Aboriginals, the mythology wasn't about worshiping a higher deity. It was more about harmonizing with nature. This is why you always had a god of some type of nature, aspect of nature. Had a god of wind, storms, fire, earth, whatever the case. That was us, artistically imagining our, intertwining with nature and knowing that we are nature, nature is us. And at the time, we talking, the early first century and beyond, Europeans, coming out of very war-torn civilization. And they sent, on the cusp of them coming out of war-torn civilizations, they had that mind state, and they were sending some of their best scholars down into Africa to figure out how to create a mythology that would make them harmonious with nature. But they had some really diabolical leaders who wanted to keep control over them. So they said, I'm gonna send you down there to learn, but you can only learn under these circumstances. Because when you come back, I don't need you coming back with information that's gonna free up all the people I still need control over. So when you come back, you're gonna give me that information, and then we're gonna tailor it to our agenda of keeping control over the people. So scoping this back down, and really putting it into some narrow context. Council of Nicaea, how did they come apart? So first, they were sending people down, particularly Greeks, down into Europe. I'm sorry, not Europe, into Kemet. Sending Greeks down into Kemet. They were learning from leftover, I'm going to make up a word here, Arabized Egyptian mystery systems and cults. So in other words, at the time they were sending them down there, by this time, most of the Middle Eastern Arabs had taken over Kemet or Egypt. They still kept some of the, the systems intact, but that's who a lot of the Greeks were learning from at the time. In other words, they were learning from Arabs who learned from Africans. All right. So they sent this one guy named Arius. Where we at? Got 4 minutes. Let me hurry this up. They sent this one guy named Arius down into Kemet, and the primary reason they sent him down there is because while Rome and Greece were, struggling with coming from Roman mythology and Greek mythology into a new refined control system, they were coming up They were coming up with new concepts and adopting principles of Hebrewism. So, long story short, though, Arius goes down into ancient Kemet, and to make it brief, there's a lot to it, but he, essentially co-founded the concept of a guy named Serapis Christus, which was at first a culmination of Greek and Egyptian gods combined into one. He was one deity, right? But this Serapis Christus was the precursor for Jesus Christ. In other words, he was the first prototype of Jesus Christ. So Serapis Christus becomes Jesus Christ. And while Arius was basically debating the Roman theological, authority at the time, what he was propagating was, Jesus can't be he can't be the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost all at the same time. He can't be all three. That ain't gonna make no sense. He's got to be just a product of God. But the Roman theological authority was like, no, we need it to be more tight than that. We need the control mechanism to be more strict than that. In other words, we need people to think that Jesus is God. Right. So that's how it started. That's how the Council of Nicaea started, battling that concept. And from there, they spent another 550 years with more councils convening to keep updating the story. And like they did it. I mean, but you got to give them some credit. They were persistent. They did it. These were the major convenings. But you had after the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, after that, you had a first Council of Constantinople in 381 CE. In other words, that's about 50 years later. And then about 70 years later, the Council of Ephesus kept updating it. And after that, 20 years later, the Council of Chalcedon. And then about 100 years after that, the Second Council of Constantinople. And so forth and so on. In other words, they kept doing councils convening to update the concept of Christianity all the way up until 870 CE, or in other words, AD. Constantly updating the concept of Jesus Christ and Christianity in general. Right. In other words, kept refining the religious control mechanism. And I say that with all due respect, to anybody and what they believe. But the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. That's not me making that up. That is historical fact. Right? They kept updating the concept of Christianity. 550 years in the early parts of let's say AD. In other words, so it's 12 o'clock on the dot. I think I can land that plane there unless you got a question.
No. Well, no, you got the point across that we're helping our people to understand how they were brainwashed into believing a lot of these books that was plagiarized from ancient scrolls and that sort. And it was a composition of stories and ideals to get you to believe in a particular religious system?
Oh yeah. One more thing about Revelations. Was Revelations made up as well? Yeah, because John was made up. So they made up the story of Revelations, but when I say they were refining the entire entire novel of the Christian Bible, we do have to keep in mind how well versed they were in, again, the ancient mystery systems of ancient Africa, and was also included in the curriculum of the ancient mystery systems of ancient Africa is astronomy and astrology. That's at the core of it, as a matter of fact. But because understanding, if you combine astrology and astronomy, you call it cosmology. So them understanding cosmology very well is what helped them to write biblical narratives that seem to predict the future. Because that's what cosmology does. It's taking a look at nature and its revolutions, its cycles, and all cycles do is repeat. So if you can imagine, if you can observe cycles over an amount of time and you see patterns, you can predict the future with that. Same way we predict the weather. Right. So when they wrote Revelations, they wrote it with a background of having cosmological knowledge of not only, let's say, seasons on a yearly scale, but on a era scale as well. So yeah, they can calculate the numbers 5,000 years down the line and say, you know what, more than likely these type of things are going to, in other words, the energy on the planet at that time in the future is going to be this, so we can predict or propagate that this state of mind of the entirety of people on the planet Earth are going to be in this mind state of start going through these particular paradigms. And then it also helps if you force the religion on people across the globe and put yourself into a position to where you got technological power to make illusions on these things happening in accordance with the Bible. So I mean, it was a military maneuver on several fronts over the course of a couple millennia, and so this is where we are with it. But just like you were saying earlier, I mean, or just like Chairman was saying earlier, well, we have choices, right? We've got choices on which direction we want to go in, and what we're offering over here is a observation of the truth, an alternative utopia on this planet, and you don't have to. Your only option is not to abide by these diabolical illusions and quote unquote fates that the powers that shouldn't be want to reveal to you.
All right, so and go in order, lucifersrevenge.net. You can go directly to Amazon. Get a copy of the book. Two things happen. One, we need the resources to complete the conversion from being only U.S. citizens to being dual citizenship. That's your Aboriginal status, and you still hold on to your American status. That's why some of these demons are threatening to end dual citizenship. That's just like you want to mess with Social Security. There's going to be a long line of people ready to take you out. So you take away our right to dual citizenship, it's going to be a double long line of people. Because that's a straight statement. We're here to do one thing, and that's to murder you Aboriginal people. We want you dead. And if you want to act like that, then now I'm going to explain the extraterrestrial, the ET's understanding of revelation. So revelation, I'm going to be real quick because we're running over time. Revelation means to reveal. So everything that the dark side has been doing all this time, it's being exposed to you. And so you are given the opportunity to correct yourself, correct your thinking. This current economic system, it has expired. Those Caucasian bodies, they are expiring. So that means that those spirits and souls in those Caucasian bodies need to be doing something to prepare for their next life. And they can really do some good things by helping their Aboriginal status out. And then they can reincarnate in the next life into a melanated body. And my power is running late on my computer. So here's what Revelations means. So once all of those things are exposed, and you still want to follow along with this Luciferian dumb crap, then the ETs are going to come to a conclusion. Experiment gone bad. We need to exterminate because, just like when roaches get in your house, you got to shut them down. You got to shut them down because you don't want them to spread into your bedroom and all those other places. So that's where we are right now. And when they shut you down, they're not going to single out the demons that's been doing it because all of us have complied with their systems. We still think that we're going to survive in this economic system, this Luciferian system. It ain't going to happen. It's imploding right now as we speak. So I'm gonna land that plane. That's how the ET, you see Revelation. This happens all throughout the universe, all the time. We get to this point in our spiritual evolution and we are tested. And we're being tested. Donald Trump is a test. Are we going to sit back and go along with this dumb crap? Or are we going to make a difference? Now, the first difference we can make, you're not going to fix this United States of corporate America again because it was designed to do what it's doing. Develop your own country. All you brothers out there with egos who want to be your own chief, you can be a part of our nation and be your own chief. So get with us. Go to our website, put your name in, and we'll be contacting you. And we're going to be upgrading the site more and more as we get more technical people to come on board. And but the ET's got nothing but time for you to figure this out. But you're running out of time because they have a clock as to how far they're going to let this ignorance go. And I'm going to land that plane. Go to UAARnation.org. Go buy Lucifer's Revenge. Go get a copy of the book. The other thing is it's going to give you some knowledge, and then it can help contribute to us setting up this nation for your children. Because you see how they're acting. There's no hope for them in this Caucasian economic system. None. Hey, man, Chairman, you got a closing statement?
No, I mean, we said enough. Hopefully people are paying attention because it's very important. We're getting to that line where it's no return. Things have got to progress in a positive way for us to survive on this planet because negativity will cause us to destroy each other, and that's not good for nobody.
Hey, well, on that note, we'll let the engineer close us out. Hey, man, tell us, close us out. Yeah. And that show, if you go to our YouTube site, it was titled "Why You Can't Trust DNA Analysis." Go to that one because they blocked that show, I believe, on Facebook, and there's some powerful knowledge in there. Go ahead, close us out, man.
All right, it's been a